Hello children, I hope you all are happy and safe today. Welcome to our special English hour. Here, every day we will learn something new in a fun and exciting way. Are you all ready to have some fun? Let's go. Do you all remember the tongue twister that we tried in our previous session? I saw a kitten eating chicken in the kitchen. Now I want all of you to repeat this after me. I saw a kitten eating chicken in the kitchen. I saw a kitten eating chicken in the kitchen. Now, let us increase the speed a little bit. Make sure you try to say this with me. I saw a kitten eating chicken in the kitchen. I saw a kitten eating chicken in the kitchen. Now, it's time to go full speed. And we have to say this, yes, 5 times. Are you all ready? Let's go. I saw a kitten eating chicken in the kitchen. I saw a kitten eating chicken in the kitchen. I saw a kitten eating chicken in the kitchen. I saw a kitten. That's all right. But we are getting better at this. And I'm sure with practice, we will all be able to say this 5 times with the same speed. I hope you all had fun saying the tongue twister with me. Now, we all know that words are very important for a language. So it's time to learn some new words. I want all of you to listen to me very carefully. Our first word is ridges. 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 Our second word is trout. 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 Our third word is brimming. 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 Our fourth word is eddying. 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 Our fifth and the last word is fallow. 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 Now, I will repeat these words for you one more time. But this time, I want all of you to write these words down in your notebooks and try to say them out loud with me. Are you all ready? Let's go. Our first word is ridges. Our second word is trout. Our third word is brimming. Our fourth word is eddying. And our fifth word is fallow. Children, let me ask you all a question. We all know that our country has a lot of different types of water bodies, right? Can you tell me the name of the most famous river? Let me give you all a clue. It starts with the letter G. I think I gave you all the answer. Yes, The most famous river, as we all know, is Ganga. Now let me ask you another question. Can you tell me, where does Ganga originate from? Yes, Ganga originates from the Gangotri Glacier in Himalayas. This brings me to my next question. Where does the river Ganga finally meet the sea? The river Ganga meets the Bay of Bengal in Kolkata. This magnificent river goes through a lot of different phases in its entire lifespan. For example, it starts its journey from the extremely cold climate in the Himalayas and to a completely different climate in Kolkata. Also, all the different friends or tributaries like Gandak, Kosi, Mahananda that it meets on its journey. Have you ever wondered how the life journey of a river or a water body for that matter is just like ours? Sounds very fascinating, right? Let us learn more about this in a wonderful poem called the Brook. Please open page number 68 of your English Bal Bharati textbook. If you have a textbook, point your finger on the words as I read them. And if you don't have a textbook, please don't worry. Listen to me very carefully. Also, while we read the poem, I want all of you to look for the 5 new words that we just learned. The name of our poem is The Brook. I come from haunts of coot and hern. I make sudden sally and sparkle out among the fern to bicker down a valley. By 30 hills I hurry down or slip between the ridges. By 20 thorps a little town and half 100 bridges. Till last by Philip's farm I flow to join the brimming river. For men may come and men may go, but I go on forever. Children, can you all look for any of the 5 new words that we had learned earlier today in this stanza? Yes. Ridges and brimming. Children, we all know that the name of the poet is Alfred Lord Tennyson. But can you all tell me who is the speaker of this poem? Yes, the speaker of this poem is Brook itself. Brook means a very small stream. Now the brook is telling us about its entire life's journey. It begins by telling us how it emerges or begins in a small water body where a lot of different types of birds like coots and herons come around to gather. And then it tells us how it suddenly rushes forward. It moves through different places, one of them being the greenery that grows near the banks of the stream. Now, while it is flowing through these places, the sun falls on it in a way that it looks like the water is glittering. It goes on to tell us how it suddenly gains some speed and it tumbles down different hills. And then It seeps through ridges. Now, ridges are the small crevices between two hills. And then it tells us how along its way it passes through a lot of villages and a small town. And it also passes underneath a lot of bridges. Then finally, on its way, it passes through a farm that belongs to a man named Philip. Then it tells us how it meets a river and the river absorbs it while it is already huge and brimming. Brimming means overflowing. And finally, it tells us how the lives of humans is very impermanent. But the brook lives on forever. I chatter over stony ways in little sharps and trebles. I bubble into eddying bays. I babble on the pebbles. With many a curve my banks I fret, by many a field and fallow, and many a fairy foreland set, with willow, weed and mallow. I chatter, chatter as I flow to join the brimming river, for men may come and men may go, but I go on forever. Children, can you look for any of the rest of the 3 words that we had learned earlier today? Yes, eddying and fallow. Now the brook is back on its journey. It rushes through different paths that are filled with rocks, pebbles and stones. While it is passing through these places, it makes a sound that sounds like music. Then it tells us how it pulls into eddying bays. Now, eddying bays are the bays filled with churning water in it. Then again, it passes through rocks that are lined on the shore or at the bottom of the bay. It goes on to tell us how on its journey it passes through different farms and fallows. Now, farms and fallows means meadows and lands of farm. It then goes on to tell us that it also passes a place that looks like it belongs to fairies. That is because the landscape is dotted with green plants and delicate little blossoms. Now it tells us how it is chattering while trying to meet the overflowing river. Why do you think it says it's chattering? It says that it's chattering because while rushing to meet the river, it makes a sound that sounds like trickling. And finally, again it tells us how the lives of humans is impermanent while the brook lasts forever. I wind about and in and out, with here a blossom sailing, and here and there a lusty trout, and here and there a grayling, and here and there a foamy flake upon me as I travel, with many a silvery water break above the golden gravel, and draw them all along and flow to join the brimming river, for men may come and men may go, but I go on forever. Children, can you find the last word that we learnt earlier today in this stanza? Yes. Trout. Now here, the brook tells us how it's passing across a countryside. It is zigzagging across the landscape. It then tells us how a flower petal is drifting along with its water, and also some trouts and graylings. Now, trouts and graylings are a type of freshwater fish. It also tells us how occasionally the water in the brook bubbles up and foams on its journey to meet the river. The top of the brook forms waves that crash across the pebbles and the sand at the bottom of the bay in a very melodic fashion. It also tells us how the vigorous brook pulls the pebbles, flower petals and fishes along with it while it is rushing to meet the river. Again here, it tells us how the lives of humans is very impermanent, but the brook lasts forever. I slip, I slide, I gloom, I glance among my skimming swallows. I make the netted sunbeam dance against my sandy shallows. I murmur under moon and stars in brambly wildernesses. I launder by my shingly bars. I loiter round my cresses. And out again I curve and flow to join the brimming river. For men may come and men may go, but I go on forever. This poem is written by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Now the brook tells us how it passes through meadows filled with greenery and densely planted hazel trees that give shade to the landscape. It also tells us how, while rushing forward, it nudges some wildflowers called forget-me-nots. These wildflowers grow on the banks of the river. It also tells us how these wildflowers are meant for people fully in love. The brook goes on to tell us how, while passing, sometimes it looks very dark and quiet, and sometimes the sunlight bounces off its surface. It goes on to tell us how, all this while, birds called swallow barely touch the surface of the water while searching for food. Now, the sunlight falls through the trees in a way that it looks like a woven pattern on the surface. And the sunlight reflects on a moving surface in a way that it looks like it's playfully dancing. Now that it is night time, the brook passes very quietly and calmly. And it also takes an unhurried moment to spend with the greenery of the shrubs. Again, the brook goes on to tell us how the lives of humans is very impermanent, while the brook lasts forever. We learnt a wonderful poem today, and now it is time to learn something new. Do you all know what is alliteration? Alliteration is the occurrence of the same letter or sound in words that are placed close together. Let me give you an example. He builds a big boat. Here, the letter B and the sound B have been repeated in 3 different words that are in the same sentence. This is an example of alliteration. Now, let us do a small activity. On your screen, you will see one stanza of the poem. I want all of you to find out 3 examples of alliteration from this stanza. All the best. The first example of alliteration in this stanza is sudden Sally. Here, the letter S and the sound sir have been repeated in words that are close together. The second example of alliteration here is 20 thopes. Here, the letter T has been repeated in these two words. Now let us look at the last example. Men, may. Here, the letter M and the sound M have been repeated twice in these words. So, the three examples of alliteration here are sudden Sally, 20 thopes and men, may. I hope you all like this activity. Now let us learn something more. Do you all remember what a preposition is? A preposition is a word which is usually used to tell us where something is or when something is going to happen. It shows us the relationship between different words in a sentence. Let me give you an example. The sentence is, the coffee is on the table. Here, if I had just said the coffee table, you would have thought I was talking about the coffee table, right? But when I tell you the coffee is on the table, you know that I am talking about the cup of coffee that is kept on the table. Here, the preposition on is used to describe the relationship between two nouns, that is coffee and table. Now let us do a small activity. On your screen, you will see another stanza from our poem. You have to identify the number of different prepositions used in this stanza. All the best! Now let us look at the answers. The prepositions used in this stanza are over, in, into and on. I hope you all like this session. Today, we learned how the life journey of a brook is very similar to ours. In the entire poem, there was one line that stood out the most. For men may come and men may go, but I go on forever. It means that humans have a very impermanent life, but the brook lives forever. Now, with the help of your family and friends, I want all of you to look for other things in the nature that last forever. Please make sure that you write them down in your notebooks. I will see you all in the next session. Until then, stay home, stay safe, and bye-bye.